Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and there's a few things that you shouldn't be doing on YouTube. And one of them is damaging your body to the point where you probably can't get whatever damage you did reversed. And what am I talking about, ladies and gentlemen? I'm talking about a streamer that I came across that frankly is trying to perform the Russian sleep experiment creepypasta in real life. Now, way back in the first throes of my channel, I want to say like the first 50 videos I made, one of them was Haunted Gaming, the Russian sleep experiment, where basically, for anybody that didn't know, this was a story about Russian researchers in the 40s, and basically what they found was a stimulant gas, Nova 6, that they just basically gave to a bunch of people that they captured, and kept them awake to the point where they became actual feral, insane zombies. Now, I'm sure that, in the grand scheme of things, there's probably a whole bunch of people out there, a whole bunch of agencies, businesses that would love if human beings didn't need to sleep. But sleep is one of those things where it's like, it actually is really creepy from an evolutionary perspective. We've done all of this evolution. We've never managed to cut out that 1/3 of the day where we need to lay down and keep our eyes shut and regenerate parts of our body. So again, this is a YouTuber known as Norm. Now, Norm has 1.2 million subscribers, and I agree with his header. I feel sad that the dinos died. But Norm might end up dying if he doesn't actually change some of his ways. Now, Norm's content is, pretty much as standard as you could find it. He rates countries' EAS alarms. I'm a fan of EAS alarms. He's got videos where he watches Burger King ads without singing along, which I think is valid. At the end of the day, like if you do this, you're kind of a sick individual. Might need to be waterboarded, I'm not sure. And of course, he rates low-quality Roblox memes, implying that there might even be a fucking high-quality Roblox meme somewhere else. Now, one of the things that Norm has been uploading for the last month, is staying awake for 12 days straight live. Now, why would Norm attempt this kind of a challenge? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Norm is deciding to get a record. Now, according to the lads over at the Guinness Book of World Records, they said that the longest record that somebody had gotten was Robert McDonald, who went 453 hours and 40 minutes without sleeping in 1986. Now, obviously, Norm's record wouldn't really be beating that. But there's also another revelation. Although we no longer monitor the record due to the inherent dangers associated with sleep deprivation, we can say that no one is known to have broken it since McDonald. Is it possible for a human to stay awake for 19 consecutive days? Now, obviously, the amount of people trying to break records for various things, it's something that's been going on as old as time. Cavemen have been trying to break records against each other. But the concept of sleep deprivation is one that even the largest record holders in the world don't want to mess around with, because when you don't sleep for that long, it can result in various illnesses, okay? I'm not just talking about sneezing, I'm talking about dying. Now, sleep is actually pretty important to me on a personal level, because as somebody that does suffer from sleep paralysis, I genuinely have had, I've wanted to research, why human beings even needed to do this kind of shit in the first place. And, alongside researching why we need to sleep, which, surprisingly, we don't really know a whole lot of. The whole concept of, the hag or people, your dreams messing around with you in that state while you're sleeping and awake, that in-between state is genuinely a freaky feeling that I've been trying to figure out why the mind chooses to go down that road. So anyways, to go back to our pal here, Norm, I wanted to see just how legitimate some of this stuff was. So around a month ago, all right, he was just uploading standard stuff like scary Roblox games. Happy birthday, chat. I have a car now. So, they all seem pretty harmless. And then, of course, a month ago, he started staying awake for 12 days straight. Failed attempt, until finally 3 weeks ago, he started actually staying awake. Now, I looked through these videos, and you can see by the red bar, I've basically skimmed through 11 hours, 12 hours at a time for some of these videos, and there are moments where he actually is just awake. Like, these clips end and begin as sort of different intervals and recording blocks. So, obviously, the reason why these are only 12-hour VODs is because according to YouTube, if your live stream is less than 12 hours, YouTube basically archives it for you. However, if your stream exceeds 12 hours, it may not be captured at all. Imagine staying away for 12 days and not having the video proof to prove it. Now, you might not have heard of this, and I think that pretty much is understandable because obviously not a lot of people are really watching these streams. I'm not here to shame the view counts on these streams, but it wouldn't be more than, like, I would imagine hundreds, if not maybe slightly over 1,000 live viewers who are watching a man slowly harm their body, okay, over time. Now, what's interesting about this too is in the quest for viewership, Norm decided to post a little update he got from YouTube, where he actually ended up getting a goddamn strike on his channel. So if you look really carefully over here past his face, it looks like his stream Awake for 12 Days world record, which wouldn't be a world record, by the way, because that would be 18 days, actually violated community guidelines. And if you can kind of read over here, it says, "We think your content doesn't follow our harmful and dangerous policy. Content that promotes harmful or dangerous activities that risk serious physical harm or death isn't allowed on YouTube." And yeah, obviously, if you look through YouTube's self-harm policies, they literally say, please don't promote content glorifying self-harm. I think trying to get a world record, it's not an educational video, it's just literally this one kid basically offing themselves for viewership. Instructions on how to die. Engage in self-harm. Yeah, staying awake for that long, definitely engaging in self-harm. Now, the live streams would generally just be inside his, like, home. Like, he would literally just be sitting inside his place, cooking, eating food, just in front of his stream while awake for what he claims is 34 plus hours at this point. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, obviously this is one of those things where I really don't think, obviously, this person's harming anybody but themselves, and by extension, even the people around them. So obviously I understand why YouTube jumps in for the self-harm. I've kind of had a weird thing understanding YouTube's self-harm rule. Like, for instance, when Nikocado Avocado or any of these, like, mukbang channels eat like 30,000 calories at a time and then just stuff that into their body and visibly get larger and larger as they upload content, how is that also not considered self-harm, right? So obviously I understand why YouTube jumped in, and I have no objection to them going in, but I always find the self-harm rule to be so wild. Like, imagine doing like a super drinking stream, right? Like, you're just chugging back like handles of Jack and Crack and knowing full well when your body reaches that stage where you're like yakking, that's just your actual body forcing you to eliminate poison from its system. It is definitely insane. But yeah, this is one thing that I was kind of watching with morbid curiosity, and I kind of expected that YouTube would have jumped in at some point. So obviously what happened over here was Norm, like many YouTubers in this camp, didn't actually learn anything. Because 4 hours ago, he was going to kick.com to finish the world record stream. Now you can start to see that there's some actual brain damage occurring after what appears to be 48 hours of sleep deprivation, where he can't even spell the word world right. So if you go over to the Kick stream right over here, surprisingly, the guys and gals over at kick.com were like, whoa, 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 killing yourself here? Not happening on our page. Error 404, the channel appears to actually have been banned. Now, think about looking into a lack of sleep stuff too. Obviously, I don't expect Norm to be unbanned from these channels until he learns from stuff. I think that there is a serious Black Mirror-esque situation when you actually witness somebody, like this young, by the way, actually harming themselves to this extent for literally not a worthwhile amount. There's actually no viewership that's worthwhile. You could have 3 million live viewers, and if you're dead after 12 days, then it's not really, obviously it wasn't worth it. So here you can see the Randy Gardner sleep deprivation experiment, which is an American from San Diego who once held the record for the longest amount of time a human had gone without sleep. So obviously the new record was Robert McDonald, who stayed up for 18 days and 21 hours. So Gardner's attempt was actually attended by Stanford sleep researchers while his health was monitored by Lieutenant Commander John J. Ross. A log was kept by 2 of Gardner's classmates, Bruce McAllister and Joe Marciano Jr. So to understand the health effects that this person suffered from, so according to the actual extreme sleep deprivation here, they found mood changes, obviously with tiredness, people get erratic, but then you start to get problems with concentration and short-term memory, paranoia, and yes, obviously you're going to have hallucinations. On the 11th day, when he was asked to subtract 7 repeatedly, starting at 100, he stopped at 65. When he asked why he stopped, he replied that he had forgotten what he was doing. So to give an idea, that's how fucked your brain is. All right, he basically was told, all right, from 100, all you got to do is -7. So he keeps going down mentally, obviously, and eventually when he gets to 65, he just stops. Like, he doesn't have any idea what he's doing. His brain is that fried. Now, what happened to the long-term damage? Well, according to the recovery over here, the sleep researchers who were there, what they had noticed was after he had done the record, they had put him into sleep. He went to sleep for 14 hours and 46 minutes. So it's not that just because you're awake for like 10 days, you sleep for like 4. No, you're going to sleep like a reasonably normal amount of time, if not slightly more. He wakes naturally around 8:40 p.m. and stayed awake until about 7:30 p.m. the next day when he slept an additional 10 and a half hours. So he basically kind of recovered. But however, later on in life, he started experiencing serious insomnia decades after that experiment. So even though after all of this stuff, like even after the Guinness Book of World Records doesn't maintain this record anymore, you still have people who basically attempt these records. So back in 2007 on the BBC, this guy was apparently trying to break the record for 11 days and nights. And of course, while he says the hardest part, it's like, I feel pretty good. It's been a bit of a slog, but I got there. He says that his Stone Age diet of raw food helped parts of his brain stay awake and remain functional for long periods. He said it makes it harder to switch from one side of the brain, which is really tired, to the other. Now, according to this, the actual record attempt was apparently monitored by CCTV cameras and webcams. So he set out to keep a full video record of the entire 11 days as proof he stayed awake. And mind you, this guy is researching into this entire fact, not for fame or fortune, but to basically show the extreme neurological degeneration that can effectively occur. Even the diet that he was claiming was apparently claimed, in their words, to increase a forced insomnia. And obviously, do I recommend you do anything like this? Fucking no. And of course, this threw me down into a rabbit hole where I even started to figure out and look up CIA documents of what they call enhanced interrogation. So enhanced interrogation, for those of you who don't know, basically it's torture, okay? So according to the Central Intelligence Agency, their guideline on medical and psychological support to detainee rendition, interrogation, and detention, December 2004. These are their following guidelines to offer general references for medical officers supporting the rendition and detention of terrorists captured and turned over to the CIA for interrogation and debriefing. So imagine going to somebody that's given a Hippocratic oath and giving them a guideline on how to basically torture the human body. Effectively, by the way. So when you get to the sleep deprivation point of this, they say sleep deprivation with or without associated stress positions, so yeah, putting you into a part of the body that you're not going to feel too good about, is amongst the most effective adjuncts to interrogation, and is the only technique with a demonstrably cumulative effect. The longer the deprivation, the more effective the impact. The standard approval for sleep deprivation per se is 48 hours. The amount of sleep required between deprivation periods depends on the intended purpose of the deprivation. If it is intended to be one element in the process of demonstrating helplessness in an unpleasant environment, a short nap of 2 or so hours would be sufficient. Perceptual distortion effects are not uncommon after 96 hours, but frank psychosis is very rare. Mind you, this is 2004, so it might be outdated by CIA standards by 2 decades. Cognitive effects, of course, are common. Nevertheless, the medical officer and psychologist should monitor the detainee for evidence of thought disturbance or other mental derangement. This is actually, you know what's insane about it, reading a CIA document, is it is just so messed up to read. One of the most civilized nations in the world, one of their CIA isn't a military wing, it's like a civilian faction, but to witness an entire branch of that government write memorandums like this is insane. The maximum time frame permitted under CTC policy for continued deprivation is 180 hours. Recovery from extended periods in research settings has occurred with as little as 8 hours. And I shit you not, they have a full mathematical formula for how much recovery one would need. Now, when it comes to things like sleep, obviously this video is, I guess, more intended to be a educational piece than most of my regular fare. Even if you hate my channel or hate me, at least you'll learn something at the end of the day. Based on one of these pieces from NPR, what I basically found out was even amoebas, like these single cellular organisms, actually sleep. According to a research, they stop moving, ball up, and become unresponsive even when prodded. They do this for hours at a time, normally at night, and they exhibit rebound if kept on the move and deprived of this restful state. In fact, insects, fish, amphibians also sleep. Every member of the animal kingdom appears to snooze at one point or another. And the thing about sleep is, obviously, I always kind of research and wonder to myself, if we could find a way to take like a magical wonder drug that would just keep us awake, could we not have basically done that indefinitely? You know, at the end of the day, I wonder sometimes if I could just work the extra 8 hours of my day and have them actually run together. But it's not possible. After all, when you sleep, your body goes through a million different things. And, you know, you go through cellular regeneration, you go through a million different processes that all haven't been properly even documented yet. And the thing about even just sleep in general is that when you go without it, okay, when you go without it for even like a day or two, you do feel like shit. Imagine 10, 11, 12 days. What you're doing is getting to a point where you're causing actual damages. Based on one of the comments that I read out of Reddit, right, they were like 1 to 2 days, you'll probably get like fatigue. Day 3 or 4, poor judgment and decision making, hallucinations. Day 5 or 6, paranoia, compromised immune system. Day 7 to 9, which is critical, psychosis, possible organ failure, and of course day 10, a life-threatening state where you get permanent damage to the brain. Even with all of his attempts, there could have been a chance that he can actually have damaged his body to a point where it may be recoverable. And if our buddy did that, well, unfortunately, there isn't any refund on that. But ultimately, out of this entire story, it's crazy to see a YouTuber is doing the sleep experiment, the Russian sleep experiment, in this fashion. Now, there have been some theories that Norm might have been pre-recording some of this stuff and uploading them, like basically recording these 12-hour chunks at a time. And, you know, basically in between the chunks, he could have recorded a video and like basically edited it in a way where it looks like it's a continuous stream. And maybe that's true. Maybe that could be the case. It looked pretty real to me, but even if he was faking it, I would actually wish Norm would have faked this, because any form of long-term body damage to yourself is just not worth it for whatever viewership that you get. But ultimately, this rabbit hole going down it has shown me that sleep is just one of those things that is the closest to dying a human being will get. I mean, just think about it. When you go into deep sleep, it's like your consciousness just turns off. You know, when you get really existential about it, one of the questions I ask myself is, am I the same Mudahar consciously that I was the day before? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some days I wake up and I can have a whole new conscious. Are you the same person you were mentally and physically as your body changes in the course of a week? That's a question I ask myself too. But before I mentally break down myself with existential thoughts, I'm going to leave the video where I'm at right here. YouTube intervened and stopped somebody from actually harming themselves in a pretty serious fashion. You might think missing out on a couple days of sleep is okay. In reality, it is not. Do not punish your brain, let it regenerate. This is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like it if you dislike it, sorry, am out.